Each semester, about 4,000 students move into Indiana University of Pennsylvania's on-campus housing. About 2,000 of them will move in over the course of 2 days into 11 different residence halls. This effort takes hundreds of volunteers and cooperation with campus police. Most students moving in this January will be returning to IUP after a fall semester, but there are also students who are starting in the spring and will be unfamiliar with the campus. The Office of Housing, Residential Living, and Dining helps to facilitate this great movement of people. We are here at the Penn News Spotlight with Michael Masters. He's the Executive Director of Housing, Residential Living, and Dining, and the Associate Dean of Campus Living and Learning. Thanks for being with us here.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. We'll be talking about his role in the university and the logistics of moving students in for this semester. So, what's the staff structure for move-in days?
Well, we actually have a move-in committee because it's so big and it
Mm-hmm.
involves so many different aspects of the university. And the committee has already met once in the fall, and it's kind of a wild card this coming year because of the new humanities building coming online.
Yeah.
Last year, normally what we do is we bring the students back on Friday and Saturday. Now those are our new students, new freshmen and new transfers, and then on Sunday we kind of let the upperclassmen come back fending for themselves. This year we had planned to have another day of opening on Thursday because originally we thought the new humanities building would be under construction by the fall of 13. Obviously it wasn't, so we went to the regular Friday, Saturday. This year, because of the new humanities building, what we'll do is we'll have a 3-day check-in for our new students. We'll do Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And what we do is we actually have a staging area so that when a family comes to move on to campus or move into one of the suites or one of the residence halls, they don't come directly to the suites. They come down to Eberly and also by the Kowalczyk complex. And we actually have stations set up, one for each building. And so when a family comes in, the police meet them. We have student volunteers from the Center for Student Life, and they'll say, okay, where are you going to live? Well, I want to go to Ruddick. And we actually have a line for Ruddick, and they will go into that line. Most of the time, the person that's ahead of that line just kind of waves at them as they go by, because what that does, that tells us and tells them that there's actually a place for them to park whenever they get to Ruddick. Because the thing that will really mess up a check-in is if you get backed up on the scene. We have police in all the buildings. We have volunteers from various student organizations. We have individuals that volunteer. Some of our athletic teams volunteer, and they actually serve as movers. And so when a family and let's use Ruddick as an example. A family comes in down by Eberly, they're told you can go ahead and go to Ruddick. Whenever they get there, we will actually have people waiting on them. While the student goes in to get their key, we will have a group of volunteers. They all wear the same color shirts, so we know it's not somebody just picking up somebody else's possessions. And while the student is in getting their key, those volunteers will help the rest of the family actually empty the vehicle. Once the vehicle is emptied, we have, hopefully there's an extra family member take the vehicle over to one of our parking lots or maybe the parking garage, and those volunteers will help the family move the stuff into the room. That way there's no congestion there, and then we also have radio contact so that the people down at Eberly, like for example, we'll see, especially when it starts getting kind of busy, we'll have people on the radio saying, okay, I can take 3 more cars at Ruddick, or I can take 2 more cars at Walwork, and then that way we don't have people sitting around waiting. And then the other thing, we've been working with volunteers, APSCUF, our faculty union, for the last couple of years. They'll come in and they'll give bottled water. They'll give free water. Our Greeks have done that for us for a number of years too. So we try to make it an event. And it really, I'm not going to tell you it's fun, because it's directly, how much fun it is directly related to how hot it is on a given day. So that's kind of how we do it. And we try to break the buildings down so that we don't, like a lot of times we'll have half a building come in on one day, the other half will come in the next day. That way we've got room for the cars to get in, like the courtyard, for example, to get in and out. And so there's a lot of time that committee, the police are involved in the committee, maintenance and buildings and grounds are involved in the committee, along with members of the residence life and dining staff, and also the Center for Student Life gives us a lot of the volunteers for the outside work.
So how many volunteers are involved in the whole process?
Oh my gosh, if you consider the movers, several hundred.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that the police are involved as well. What kind of role do the police have, and what kind of coordination is involved?
Well, I think there's really two roles that the police have. On the committee part of it, Parking services, the police officers in charge of parking services really help us to get a sense of how they envision getting the traffic here.
Yeah.
A lot of times when students come, especially new students, usually there's 2 cars,
Yeah.
sometimes 3. And so the idea of trying to figure logistically, are we going to let people park in the courtyard? What part of the courtyard? How are we going to try to divide it up? Because the difference between a good experience and a bad experience is how much time you spend waiting.
Yeah.
If we can get them in and get them out and move on, then it's a good experience, as good as it gets, I would say.
Yeah.
If you get to a point where there's a lot of problems, then you get in that. So the police in the preliminary rule spend a lot of time just trying to help us to figure how many cars can we get in, how much room is there for it to hold. Then on the day, normally, and again, Thursday's the wild card this year. Normally, they have almost every officer here.
Yeah.
And so they actually are at all of the points where traffic needs to be directed, trying to make sure that the traffic is moving smoothly. The other thing that we do, and the police are heavily involved in this, we send out time of arrival cards, and they're color coded. And what we do is we send them, and they're like hangers, and we tell folks to put them either on their dashboard or over their rear view mirror. So the time of arrival card and the color tells that officer that's directing traffic when he sees a car coming towards him or her, and it has let's say it's a red, they see the red hanging, they know that car, let's say, goes to Northern Suites. So they don't have to stop every car and say, what are you trying to find? And so they're part of that, and then again, that direction. The other thing is, it's very helpful to have a police officer, a police presence. They also help us with our movers. Sometimes if it's hot, the movers start getting tired, so it's nice to have a police officer there who can say, hey, here's a car over here that's been waiting for a few minutes. Could you go over here and help them move, instead of maybe somebody who just got there?
Yeah, and with all these students coming in at this, within a 4-day period, what kind of special services or accommodations does the department offer for handicapped people moving onto campus?
Anybody who identifies either through our disabilities office or to us directly that they're going to need any additional assistance, we always make sure that's taken care of. Really, it's kind of framed to whatever the needs may be, and the needs are so different. If somebody, for example, has a service dog, we want to make sure that we're prepared for that. Usually, especially with new students coming in, a student with a disability who might normally need some assistance, for example, carrying things, usually because their family are bringing them, they got more than enough help. If anything, there's too much. I think the other thing that's part of this that I haven't touched on at all is the idea of, okay, if you're bringing students back early, what are you going to do with them? Because the one thing we know we don't want to do is, for example, if when we bring these students back on Thursday, we don't want to bring them back on Thursday and have nothing for them to do Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, essentially, and then classes start on Monday. So there's a whole series of activities that's sponsored by Student Life, a Monte Carlo night. Last year they were going to show a movie outside. Turned out the movie never arrived, but so we have a lot of activities going on for them too. We want to make it a fun event, but we're very sensitive to the fact of we got to bring students back early, and that's why we start feeding them early, for example.
Great. Alrighty.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, and this has been the Penn News Spotlight. Thanks.